all these words, saying, I am the Lord thy God, which has brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. Thou shalt not bow down thyself to them, nor serve them. For I, the Lord thy God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children unto the third and fourth generation of them that hate me, and showing mercy unto thousands of them that love me and keep my commandments. Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain. The Lord will not hold him guiltless that taketh his name in vain. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days shalt thou labor and do all thy work. But the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Lord thy God. In it thou shalt not do any work, thou, nor thy son, nor thy daughter, thy manservant, nor thy maidservant, nor thy cattle, nor thy stranger that is within thy gates. For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, the seas, and all that in them is, and rested on the seventh day. Wherefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it. Honor thy father and thy mother, that thy days may be long upon the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee. Thou shalt not kill. Thou shalt not commit adultery. Thou shalt not steal. Thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's house. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife, nor his manservant, nor his maidservant, nor his ox, nor his ass, nor anything that thy neighbor that is thy neighbor's.
Thank you, sir. Shabbat Shalom, everybody.
Shabbat Shalom.
Who's had a good week?
Me.
A lot of people had a lot worse week than we had, so we're blessed to be here. So, we go over these laws, these commandments as a reminder. We could spend, actually there's a large percentage of the believing world that goes through a regimen of reading particular verses each Sabbath and throughout the week. No, I need a clicker over there, please. These commandments are one small piece. When Yeshua was here amongst us, he was asked, and so as a reminder, we're going to go get the Cliff Notes version. Who would like to read these for me? Matthew 22, 36 through 40.
Master, which is the great commandment in the law, great commandment in the law, Jesus said unto him, Thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, with all thy soul, with all thy mind. This is the first and great commandment. And the second is like unto it, Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. Of these two commandments hang all the law and the prophets.
So, all right. So we're going to talk today and about how about this life we live. We know we have opposition. We have an enemy, and that enemy we know is the Hasatan, who tries to lead men / women away from Yah and keep them in bondages of all sorts, slaveries of all sorts, torture and oppression of all sorts. So what we're going to cover is soldier or general. And so first thing we have to do is understand the battle that we're in. Right now, nobody here wants to be in bondage or being tormented by sin, right?
Yes.
Nobody wants that. So, can we go out and get in the van and we all ride up to the top of the road and find sin and shoot it and kill it and be done with it? No, it doesn't work that way. All right, who would like to read Ephesians 6 and 12?
For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against the spiritual wickedness in high places.
I almost added pictures to this, but I decided not to. We wrestle not against flesh and blood. That means we can't get in the car and we can't ride down the road and find sin and shoot it and be done with it. We wrestle against principalities. That's places. Sister Cody's from Detroit. So when I think of a principality of evil, Detroit, Chicago comes to my mind. Iran comes to my mind. Maybe because I'm just conditioned that way. I was in the Marines in the early 90s. So guess what a principality of evil was to me? Saddam Hussein. That's a principality. Principality is a place, a location. Babylon. Against powers. When it's talking about against powers here, that's talking about it has power. It can affect change. Our criminal justice system, the United States of America, is an agent of the Hasatan. It has power. It can come lock us all up for nothing, for no cause. Yes, sir.
What about rulers like presidents and kings?
Rulers of the darkness of this world. I was just talking about Saddam Hussein. Now we're going to talk about Barack Hussein Obama. He is a ruler of the darkness of this world. People dying, getting killed, so forth. Spiritual wickedness in high places. Now this is not talking about presidents and kings and rulers, but spiritual wickedness in high places. These people that are in high positions in our society, and they're doing wickedness. They are being powers, empowering wickedness and sin. So whenever we watch MTV Cribs, what's the girl that was on Disney and Rise the Wrecking Ball song or whatever? Miley Cyrus or whatever. She has spiritual wickedness in a high place. And so when our children see that, they're elevated up in biblical terms that she would be considered a mighty man. She would be considered a giant because she has a lot of influence. Yes, sir.
Wouldn't spiritual wickedness in high places and rulers of the darkness of this world also refer to the breakup of the geographical locations that are ruled by spiritual powers, like when the archangel said that he was delayed by the prince of Persia?
Well, there's a lot of different divisions and way to look here, but when we look at all of those things, well, what we have to war against is against these things. And now I can't go out and y'all just told me her name, the reckon Miley Cyrus or whatever. I thought her name was
Hannah Montana was a thing that she went by as a.
That was her fake name on the show. Okay, well anyway, she's out there doing her wickedness. Well, I can't go and act against her and stop her from doing it, so I have to war against her differently. I have to war against her by letting my children know that how she's behaving is not appropriate. And the worst part is, in the case of her, she's not even the worst one. Because look at all these people that get on there and they get into drugs. What's the Lohan girl? Lindsay Lohan. She was in the news, drunk driving, crack, drugs, suing her mama, suing her daddy, getting locked up. Shit. I mean, she just went off.
Girlfriend.
Yeah, she went off the crazy train. So this is letting us know where our battle is to be waged, and it's not to be waged with Tony is in sin, so I'm going to beat him to death with a hammer, and that's going to stop sin. That's just going to put me in sin. But what we have to do is fight against the principalities, against the powers, the rulers of the darkness. That doesn't just mean presidents either, because there are some communities that have, families living in them, and they're Torah observant, whatever, and they have rulers that are ruling in darkness and sin, leading people into sin and error. And so we have to fight against those. Have to make sure we don't become those. Spiritual wickedness in high places, that's somebody who may not be in control of a country, but they're in control of a lot. Bill Gates doesn't run a country. Oprah Winfrey doesn't run a country. But how much influence do you think she has? A lot. Bill Gates, he has a lot, because money is the root of all evil, and he has almost all the money. So he has a lot of influence. Yes, sir.
That was the love of money.
Well, love of money. Bill Gates has plenty of that at his demand. America's biggest export is abortion. So that's a prime example. So with that in mind, no, my clicker is not clicking for me, though. I think people that close it. All right, so did you back up? Yes, you did. Okay, so we know that this is the same verse we just looked at. So we're going to take a look at the adversary's agents. This lets us know who those agents are. We just went over that. Now the Spirit, 1 Timothy 4:1, now the Spirit speaketh expressly, that in the later times some shall depart from the faith, giving heed to seducing spirits and doctrines of devils. Obviously, this doesn't give a year date, but when 1 Timothy was written, was that before now, or was it just recently written?
Before now.
So we are now in what? Latter times, and it lets us know that some people who won't, now we're not talking about the people who are wicked on purpose. This is talking about people who were in faith at some point. They shall depart from the faith because they're giving heed to seducing spirits. Remember the teaching we did on the mechanics of sin? Eve's first mistake was she did what with Satan? Listen. She gave heed to seducing spirits and the doctrines of devils. We don't want to be these people. Because these people were in faith and exited faith because they were deceived out of it through lies. So we know that the enemy uses the following agents. When we talk about soldiers and generals, we're going to find out who we're fighting. Deceived people who work against the Father's will by accident. Everybody in here knows somebody that falls in that category. There might be a family member, they love the Lord, but we're not under the law. I love the Lord, but we can do whatever we want. We love the Lord, but we can sin. I love the Lord. Jesus makes it so I can leave my wife and have a girlfriend, or whatever the case may be. They don't know. They through a deceiving spirit, a seducing spirit. What's seducing mean? What's that word mean?
To pull away or entice.
Yeah, it means you. I'm offering you something you want.
Tempting.
Right. I'm not forcing something you don't want. So these people got told a lie. They gave them something they wanted, and they accepted that lie so they could get what they wanted. Ear tickling. Another type of soldier is an unclean spirit. Unclean spirits can a spirit walk in here and talk to us and have dinner with us and drive us up the road. They're incorporeal. They don't have a body, but they can whisper in our ear. Man, I need a cigarette. Man, I need some vodka. Woo, man, if I could just get 2 more crack rocks. I love to do A, B, and C with that young lady, or A, B, and C with that young man. Them unclean spirits whisper in your ear. Oh, well, look at him. He's supposed to be showing me how to live, but he's got on a green shirt. I don't like people with green shirts. Them unclean spirits, they get in your mind and they start whispering, telling you things you already are predestined to want to understand by the flesh. Devils and demons that have doctrines. What's a doctrine? That's a religious way or a teaching. Devils and demons teach men false doctrines and then elevate them to high places, spiritual wickedness in high places, and in some cases make them rulers of various things. So we just look at the Pope. The Pope has a doctrine that's counter to this book, but he's been elevated. So we know that that's a type of soldier. Then we're going to get to the ones that hopefully we're pretty good at identifying. That's a Luciferian person who works against y'all on purpose. That's somebody who is wicked because they want to be. Most of the time they're atheists. Right now there's a group out in California, I think it is, that has printed up a satanic children's activities book and is suing to get it handed out in school. But they say they're atheists. No, what are you doing on the screen over here, buddy? They say they're atheists. They're Luciferian. They're evil on purpose. They're not doing it by accident. They're trying to destroy you, subjugate you, enslave you on purpose for their own gain, whatever that may be. All right. What drives or leads these 4 different types of elements? What is their leader?
The Antichrist.
The Antichrist. Tony, you got that right on the money. The Antichrist. All right, so the President of the United States is?
Antichrist.
The President, what's his name? Barack Hussein Obama. Let's imagine for a moment that we're another country. We're the country of, and the country of America decides they're going to go at war against us. Who's going to order us to be bombed and killed? The President. Barack Hussein Obama is going to order us to be killed. Is he the one that's actually going to kill us? No. He's going to send what? Some soldiers. So who's the immediate risk to us when we see the soldier? Man coming down the driveway. Well, if we live in, maybe we live on the beach. He's coming up on the beach. He's got a rifle. Who's a threat to us?
The man with the gun.
The man with the gun is a threat. But who is the one that actually instigated the harm?
The man in this power
The
seat.
man in the power seat. So we have to make sure that we don't get so wrapped up with worrying about this Antichrist that we ignore the man with the rifle. All right, so let's talk about Antichrist concerns.
Hold on, can you go back to trying to copy it, man. Almost done.
All right.
I have doctrine.
Good.
Hold on.
Antichrist, this is the Greek, which is translated something many people spend a lot of time trying to figure out who this is. There's people that's convinced it's the Pope. There's people that's convinced it's Barack Hussein Obama. There's people that's convinced it's, I don't know, Islam. The ISIS guy that just appointed himself over there. That incidentally, ISIS, we released those people. Those people were in our custody and we let them go, traded them for somebody. But anyway, they spent a lot of time being concerned about trying to figure out a physical body that the Antichrist is. Let's see what Scripture says. 2 Thessalonians 1, 2 through 4. Who'd like to read that?
Now we beseech you, brethren, by the coming of our Lord Jesus Christ, and by our gathering together unto him, that ye be not soon shaken in mind, or be troubled neither by spirit, nor by word, nor by letter as from us, as that the day of Christ is at hand. And no man deceive you by any means, for that day shall not come except there come a falling away first, and that man of sin be revealed, the son of perdition, who opposeth and exalteth himself above all that is called God, or that is worshipped, so that he is God, so that he as God sitteth in the temple of God, shewing himself that he is God. 2 Thessalonians 1, 2 and 4.
When you get into a study or a discussion, or somebody brings something about the Antichrist up to you, remember this verse. I beseech you. Who knows what that word beseech means?
Pay attention.
Engaging. Pay attention. He's beseeching us that don't be shaken in your mind. So that means don't let your own thoughts and worries about is this person Antichrist, is that person Antichrist, blah, 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 blah. Don't be shaken in your mind. Don't let it trouble you, neither in your spirit or nor by word. That means if somebody says, well, you should know who it is, or it's obviously this person, or whatever, don't let that bother you. Nor by a letter from us. But when we get letters, the letters from the disciples are in this book, right?
Yep.
He's saying, if you're reading something in this book and it's causing you to be troubled, shaken in your mind, worrying about the Antichrist, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Because if you're going to get worried and you're going to get obsessed with it, and you're going to start looking into it, you're going to wind up being susceptible for deception. So let no man deceive you by any means. So if somebody comes and says, that guy's the Antichrist and I know it, I can show you here, here, and here, confirm it with 2 or more witnesses out this book, blah, 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 blah. Guess what? Don't be deceived by any means. Because the only thing you have to worry about is first, you fall away. And you do that by getting consumed with worry and doubt and traditions and men and all these different crazy things that's going on. The Father already knows that the spirit of Antichrist is going to manifest. The Father already knows who it is. The Father already knows what's he going to do. And in just a minute, you're going to see that the Father has already told us what's going to happen to him when he gets here. His deal is already done. So, some things we look for in that son of perdition, he's going to oppose Yah and exalt himself above all that Yah is and Yah has established. Now, this is obviously talking about the last Antichrist. How many times do you think the Antichrist has appeared?
A lot.
That spirit. How many times that spirit acted? 10 million times a day. Easily. Every time that liar comes on the TV in there and, oh, don't pay your light bill. Send me your money and sow a seed. And, y'all, don't worry about it. Joe Osteen.
That's this $50. We'll send you this prayer call.
Anytime you hear something leading you opposite to what his book says, that's spirit Antichrist. Yes, sir.
Mike Murdoch was the one that was selling.
Mike Murdoch.
He was on the $758 seed and then this morning.
He was sowing some too. So this lets you know: do not be worried. It doesn't matter how convincing the argument is. It doesn't matter what you read, what you see. The Father got it under control. You are in no danger, least if you fall away. If you fall away, then you're in danger. Stick with Yah, and you got it. All right, defeating and resisting the Antichrist. We're going to look at what that word actually means. Most people think Antichrist means he's opposed. He's fighting against Christ. He's fighting against the Messiah. He's fighting against Yah. Anti has several meanings. Instead of. That's what he's saying, that Antichrist is going to come back and try to sit in Yah's seat and pass judgment as though he were the judge. He was the one worthy of worship. Over, against, opposite, in exchange for, as a substitute for, on the Father's behalf, so forth, something like that. So it has different meanings. Remember that spirit of Antichrist is just not one who comes and tells you, Islam, for example. Islam is obviously manifest a spirit of Antichrist, because they say Messiah was not the Messiah. They say Yeshua was not the Messiah. He was just a prophet. That is definitely a spirit that is opposite Messiah. But he's also going to, that same spirit can try to come instead of and replace. Where they try to teach us a white, blue-eyed Jesus with long brown hair that says you can be a thief, a robber, a liar, a murderer, a faggot, a child molester. You can do anything you want to right up to the time the breath goes out your body. And as long as sometimes in your life you go, I accept Jesus as my Savior and I do not want to burn in hell, thank you very much, and that's it. Then you're going to go to heaven. That is, he's replacing Yeshua with his own. So we got to be prepared for that. Christos is the other word in translation, means Messiah or the anointed one. Alright, I told you that we already been told we ain't got to worry with the Antichrist because the Father has already told us beforehand what's going to happen. Who would like to read 2 Thessalonians 2, 7 through 10? If you're going to do it, Noah, please move closer because a lot of words and you'd be squirming.
For the mystery of iniquity doth already work. All of you now will let until he be taken out of the way, and that then shall that wicked be revealed, whom the Lord shall consume with the spirit of his mouth, and shall destroy with the brightness of his coming. Even him whose coming is after the working of Satan, with all power and signs and lying wonders, and with all deceivableness of unrighteousness, and them that perish, because they receive not the love of the truth, that they might be saved.
Okay, so this is telling us that what? We got to find the Antichrist, we got to go deal with him, because y'all don't know what's going to happen. Is that what that's telling us? No, it's saying that Yah, already among us, the unclean one is working. We didn't really need to read that and see it, did we? Because we know. We see it happening. It's letting us know that when Yeshua returns, does it say he's going to have to fight him and they're going to wrestle and it's going to be like this Hollywood battle and all this going on? No. It says that when Yeshua returns and he opens his mouth, BAM! Antichrist is done. He's through. Yeshua ain't even going to focus on him, ain't going to pay him no attention. Darkness cannot exist where light is. Light doesn't destroy darkness. Light is just light. That's just what it is. If it was nighttime outside and we turned off all the lights in here and we were in the dark, it'd be dark. And then if we turned on the light, what would happen to all the darkness? It would go away. It'd be gone. It would cease to be. Now, this is letting us know he's already at work in our lives, in our world, and all those people that fall to the lies of false miracles. We have it up here somewhere, don't we? These signs shall follow. Guess what? The Antichrist is going to have signs following his people too. They're going to cast out devils. They're going to heal the sick. They're going to do all those things. They're going to raise the dead. They're going to have billions of people starving, and all of a sudden he's going to find a way to feed them. All those things. All those false signs, false miracles, and lying wonders, all that's going to work. But all those people that fall for that and don't stick with this book, they're going to perish right along with it. Yes, sir.
There was this college about the darkness thing. There was a college professor, and he asked his students, does God exist? Does anyone believe in God? One student said, yes, I believe in God. God created everything. He said, so if you go by the principle that your work defines who you are, you know, I mean, God is evil because he created evil because evil exists and he created everything. So the guy didn't know what to say. He sat back down. Another student raised his hand. He said, sir, can I ask you a question? He said, sure. Go ahead. He says, does darkness exist? He says, sure. Have you never seen darkness before? He says, in fact, Professor, you're wrong. He says, because darkness is in fact the absence of light. So you can't measure darkness, you can only measure light.
attention, test all things. So when you see somebody that has a wonder, or you see somebody that has a miracle, or you see somebody that has a sign, that doesn't make them exempt from being tested or make them exempt to this law. Many people will put themselves in the Moses seat. They'll put themselves in the Father's seat. They will find a way where it's okay for them to sin because they are better than. I have a sign, I have a power, I have a degree, I went to school, the Holy Spirit told me that don't apply to me, or whatever. Guess what? It applies. Period. No one is above this word. One law for all of us. Don't worry about the Antichrist. He's already got his ticket. He's just waiting for it to get stamped. All right, so let's see some Antichrist spirits at work. This is the Torah. This is Yeshua, the Word made flesh. This is light. This is the Father. Anybody want to guess what this picture is?
Hell.
Hell. This is the absence of light. All right. Every choice you make, every choice I make, every choice this community makes, every choice Warren County makes, every choice North Carolina makes, collectively, everything we do is a choice between doing a righteous act or a non-righteous act. Every one of them. We're serving a spirit in every decision we make. Even including if we decide not to make a decision. Alright. When we pick, you decide. Some things don't seem very important. Killing someone out of anger. Which way you reckon that is?
That way.
That's unrighteousness. So when you pick to kill someone in anger, what spirit have you served?
That's a con.
You've manifested a spirit of Antichrist. Stealing anything. If you steal something, what spirit?
Same thing.
But what if I want it? What if you had too much of it?
They still want truth.
That's right, it's still stealing. Not telling the truth.
The same.
Have a seat, please, Elijah. Thank you. Not telling the truth. What if, it was a good reason? No, there's no good reason to sin. Yes, sir.
What if the Antichrist manifests and he's here on earth and we know who he is, and you guys, we're all trying to get to a safe place, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I get captured. I know where you guys are going. They're torturing me, right? And I tell them to lie to direct them somewhere else.
You sin.
Really?
Now, you cannot answer. There's nothing that says you have to answer, but you're not to lie. The exception to that is many people believe that it's better to sin to save life. And generally they come up with that argument. Well, if they got a gun to my head and they said they're going to kill me, if I don't tell them where, the Nazis got a gun to my head and I don't tell them where the Jews are hiding, what's my answer? My answer is,
no comment.
Do you know Yeshua? Because you really need to know Yeshua, because I'm going to leave here in a minute because you're going to kill me. Then you're going to die. Eternally. You can do things other than lie.
That's what you're saying.
Agreeing to something carelessly. Backing out. Oh, I'll call you tomorrow. Which way does that go?
Same as lying.
Same as lying. Because your yes did not mean yes. You entered an oath. Most people think an oath is I'm going to put my hand on something and I do hereby so help me God. Matter of fact, the Air Force this week did away with you used to have to swear in when you went in the Air Force, and you had to make a promise to uphold the Constitution, blah, 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 and at the end, so help me God. Well, the Air Force has decided that so help me God is no longer needed.
Oath is everything that
Comes out your mouth. If I say, I'm not going to do that, then that means I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do that. Yes means yes, no means no. Eating that which is forbidden. Now, everybody here pretty much is already on board with that. But we can go up the road here tomorrow about 12:30 when church lets out, and we can probably get about 4 plates of barbecue, 2 hams.
We're going to be dedicated to find out to make their husbands out of a truck that
Or find out that a restaurant we like cooks something clean and unclean just to spite us. So we decide every time we pick up a fork. Being rebellious against the laws or rules of the land. Now that doesn't matter if we have a law here, a rule on this land that can't smoke inside buildings. If you smoke inside of a building, what spirit are you manifesting?
Hospitality.
The spirit of the Antichrist. Because we're supposed to submit ourselves to the lawful authority of men. On this community, or even further, so to submit ourselves one to another. But when we get out on that highway, and the speed limit's 70 miles an hour, and I want to run 85 because I'm in a hurry, guess what spirit I'm serving? Spirit of lawlessness. That's the spirit of Antichrist. Maybe I don't like the fact that the speed limit's 70. Maybe I want it to be 75. Well, redress your government with your grievance and see how that works out for you. But don't go out being rebellious and unlawful. Now, obviously, if Caesar tells us we have to eat pork on Tuesdays, we're not going to do that. Because that would no longer be the righteous authority of man that we're going to be in submission to.
So, if a government tells us to do something that's against the scriptures, that means we're still supposed to obey the other ones that
Exactly.
the other laws that they have that are righteous,
Exactly.
but only the unrighteous ones that disobey.
Exactly.
So that means that if they started coming around or something killing us, we couldn't fight it back because then we would be, what would that be called? Mutiny, rebellion?
That would be treason.
Treason, yeah.
Well, but now if the government is coming and killing you, you have an obligation, and I got to teach that earlier, we have an obligation to defend the believers. I don't know how any person, and there's a bunch of them, especially on Facebook, that reads this book and tells me a Hebrew is not to defend themselves. I don't know how they do it.
That's not what it says.
That's all they've ever done the whole time
They had a great big old wop stick, and they used it whenever they needed to. Let somebody come here thinking we are just going to let people be harmed and wrong. Now, we try to preserve life and keep life anyhow we can, but if it comes down to a heathen or a Hebrew, and somebody's got to spill blood, I promise you, my choice is already made there.
we're going to go down and fight.
Gossip or slander. Hebrew word for slander is rakil. Especially when you get people out here in the Hebrew world, they get these terms mixed up. I'm not talking about evil tongue. Gossip and slander are lies or half-truths presented, and they only have one purpose. That's to hurt somebody. Oh yeah, you better be careful about that guy, because I heard that he's stealing stuff, and I don't know if he's stealing stuff or not. It's things that may or may not be true. Evil tongue, which is what you hear a lot of Hebrew groups talking about. Evil tongue, it can be true, but then they try to do what this book tells us we are not capable of doing. No, it means I have to determine your intent. Evil tongue, it can be true. If I went and said, you know what, Jim here murdered 3 guys that stole cigarettes from him about 10 years ago, and he still hasn't dealt with that, so you need to be careful. There are Hebrews that would stone me to death for telling you that, even though I know you keep going over and taking his cigarettes. I'm telling you that so he does not kill you. My intent is to stop him from murder and you from death. But as many people say, that was evil tongue.
But the teaching on the Lashon Hara is that if you are saying something that's negative about somebody that you're supposed to avoid at all costs if possible, then you're supposed to examine yourself to see if your intentions are righteous or unrighteous. And in that case, it would be righteous, therefore it would be Lashon Hara.
But when people look on you on the outside, as soon as you try to state an obvious fact about some evil someone has committed, the first thing that comes up is you're using evil tongue. They're going to judge your heart. Yes, we're supposed to judge our heart first before it comes out of our mouth. But they're going to judge your heart for you, even though the book says that we can't do that. They're going to do it for you, and regardless of the facts.
So the difference between Rakil and Lashon Hara is that with Lashon Hara, you have to make a judgment call about what the person's attitude is.
That's correct. If I come to you and say,
Which
hey,
is wrong
you need to be careful because this guy often, I have a documented plenty of evidence that this person has done this to me repeatedly, and I fear that they're going to do it to you. That is not evil tongue. That's me trying to warn you. If I come to you and slander and say, well, Peyton told me that the guy at school that she knew that once was a friend with the teacher of the guy when he was in the 3rd grade said he liked to steal stuff. That's just slander. Because there's no witness being presented.
I've always been taught that Lashon Hara includes Rakil. It's part of Lashon Hara. We're not supposed to say anything that could put somebody in an evil light, because by doing so, we are making judgment on them without knowing their intention.
You have 2 children, right? They're grown?
Yes.
So let's say they were 3 years old, and I had someone staying here with my 3. Let's say at the same time we had 2 3-year-olds. This brother comes to my house and sodomizes my 3-year-old, almost kills them, and then they go up the road. Now, I know next month I see them, they're over at your house and you got them babysitting. What do you think the book would have me do? I can't. Now, I'm going to put them in an evil light if I open my mouth. Which that's not a good example, because I'm going to kill the hell out of him. He ain't like worry about it. He's going to be dead.
See, exactly. He's going to be dead. So
But the point is, we are obligated scripturally to mark the false brethren amongst us. Because if not, we are empowering their work. We are allowing the wolf to eat the outside of the flock without warning. Now, we have to make sure when we warn, we're right. We can't get to... we had somebody that stayed here many years ago, and there was a brother here, and we were out at another community. And she went to someone on that community and said, that person is sexually molesting children. That's the words that came out their mouth. That brother was with me off that community. We were in town. I got a phone call. You need to bring that brother back. We got a big problem. So we rushed back. Rushed back to figure out what's going on. Get that woman in there to, sort the matter out. Do you think that man's life was in danger?
Yep.
It was. The woman says, well, no, I don't have any proof that he would do that, but he looks like the kind that might. Because when I was a child, I got molested 30 years ago, and he kind of looks like the kind that would do it.
Basically,
that's evil tongue.
She was just saying that he looks like the person that did it to her.
That's evil tongue.
But if you have 2 witnesses and you go with it, or, if your son was sodomized and there was DNA left, you have that. There's proof.
That's right.
So that wouldn't be evil tongue because you've got the proof. But if I just come to you and say...
But if you brought it, there's many out there in the world that would not even hear it because they'll tell you that's slander. That's evil tongue. If I tell you, me and Barack Hussein Obama went to college together, and we graduated from Harvard, me and him used to hang out, and I used to live at his place over there in Chicago, and therefore let me teach you about how this government works, and you know that I'm not old enough to be Barry's friend, and I never lived with Barry, and you got proof I was never around Barry, it would not be evil tongue for you to come forward and say, well, he says they were 20 at the same time, and he's 30 and he's 50, so that's a lie. That wouldn't be evil tongue.
And Barack Hussein Obama graduated from high school.
Here's a copy of Mike's lack of graduation from Harvard. A, I couldn't afford to go to Harvard. B, I wouldn't go there because too many liberals. But regardless, slander is universally wrong. It's a lie. If you can't prove it, it's a lie. Now, there will come times, we're talking about that gray area about lying. For me to come forward and put an accusation against someone without 2 or more witnesses, I'm scripturally in error. But I'm still going to do it. If I come in and I catch someone sodomizing my child, I'm not going to go and try to find another person to come back and see it with me. And I'm certainly not going to let him hang around and do it again. I'm going to handle it.
You have your 2 witnesses right there, you and your son.
I'm going to handle it right then. And so sometimes, I had a guy steal a handgun from me. I saw him do it on the camera. He admitted to it. He gave it to me. If I needed to bring 2 witnesses up at that exact moment, although, the word won't count a camera, although everybody can be a witness then. But the point is, make sure your intention. Your intention is what's going to determine. But don't let the fear of someone condemning you for doing what is right stop you from doing what's right. Holding a grudge or hating someone. Sirs, which spirit?
Unrighteousness.
Unrighteous spirit. A spirit of the Antichrist. Holding a grudge can be very small. Matter of fact, Scripture knows we're going to hold it. Tony's got ill with you, you got ill with Tony, Tony's got ill with me, I've got ill with Tony. I don't know if I got ill with you yet, Daniel. But you might have got ill with me, whatever. Scripture knows we're going to get ill with each other because we're human. And if y'all all could behave like me, we wouldn't have these problems. But since you can't, every man's right in his own eyes, right? But since we are human beings, it says we're going to get angry, and it says, hey, you can get just as mad as you want to get, but when that sun goes down, be done with it. Be done with it. If you got to drop an F-bomb and holler and shout and say, you stole my Twinkie or whatever, and I don't appreciate you peeing on my pillow, whatever you need to do, settle it and be done with it. And then once it's done, it's done. All right. Unclean spirits manifest variably. We just talked about all those all those ways that the spirit of Antichrist is served. But guess what? It's variable. There's an unclean spirit, a lying spirit. Kim has never asked me this, but apparently out in the world, everybody talks about it, so it's a big thing. Does this dress make me look fat? Some question like that. A friend asks you. So, I mean, I'm not encouraging anybody. Number one, sisters, don't ask your husbands, does this make you look fat?
Especially if you don't want the real answer.
Especially if you don't want the real answer. I have learned over the past 15 years, 10 years of my life, that when somebody asks me a question, and I get put in this position we're talking about right now, where I don't want to tell them the truth because it's going to hurt their feelings. And I can't lie because then I'm lying. I say, I don't think you really want me to answer that. If you really want to know, I'll tell you, but I don't think you want. I put a warning label on it, and most people still ask, and they still get offended. But when they ask, does this dress make me look fat? And we say, whatever. That's a white lie. The world tells us that's a white lie, right? All right, what about if I got a job and somebody says, well, did so-and-so make this mess, break this machine? And I know who broke it, but I want that job. So I go, I'm not sure who broke it. I know Tony was over here working with it. I withhold part of the truth. That's a pretty serious lie. Because now Tony can lose his job, and I told it so I can get his job. That's a much stronger unclean spirit manifestation, right? What if I go to court and I just straight up bold-faced lie on somebody? Yes, sir, Your Honor, I saw him walk in the store and shoot 3 times. I tell you what, out in Ferguson, Illinois, Ferguson, Missouri, we got this lying spirit going on. Because we got one group of people that are testifying this way and one group who are witnessing it this way. Somebody's a damn lie. Guess what? It's a lie. It's just like somebody says, do you like these shoes? Yeah, they're not too bad. You think they're ugly as goat vomit? You just lie. It's the same sin. That spirit manifested with a different strength. Have I ever been drunk before? Sister Kim, have I ever been drunk before? Yes. I have been drunk before. Tony, have you ever been drunk before?
Several times.
Who do you think manifests that spirit of drunkenness stronger, me or you in our lives?
Say it again.
Who manifested that spirit of drunkenness more and stronger in our lives between me and you? You wrestled with it for many years, right?
Yes, sir.
So you may be over here, but guess what? It's the same spirit I have. No difference. Whatever spirit it is, everybody's got different weaknesses and vices. I used to get really loud. Now, if I talk like this, Kim will tell you. She'll say, I raise my voice. Because this is not yelling. Because I used to yell. I can't yell like that in here because y'all will freak out and probably leave the room. Now I raise my voice. Most people consider this yelling. I used to have a problem with getting loud. I would start off quiet, and I would tell you again, and about the third or fourth time, people up the road, the neighbor at the top of the community up there would be going, what in the world is going on back there? I had a problem with that. Anybody ever got mad and yelled at somebody? Well, guess what? Y'all might have been over here. I was over here with that. If you can't hear, maybe I'll get louder. That's something the Marines taught me. Loud makes people listen better, and so does the F word. I didn't say it was a correct learning, but that's what they taught me. Hate. How many people feel that they got a hate in their heart, a hateful spirit? Nobody wants to think that they deal with that. What about gossip and slander? What do you think that is? Being in cliques. Oh, well, you gossip and slander, that you're putting hate on somebody. And that's just a little one. You know, maybe it's just a little bit. Remember, the same sin. Open bickering. That's mine. That's yours. That's a form of hate, right? Because you're mad. You got anger. Well, guess where that leads to? Hope y'all have my little picture here. That leads to harm or murder. And you know what? In all the correction cases I reviewed and everything I've read about different crimes, very rarely is murder. Doesn't make any sense. It always starts generally with something pretty stupid. The wife doesn't care about her husband because he goes out too much. So the wife eventually starts lying, this, that, and the other. She finds somebody who cares about her, a seducing man, a seducing spirit. She starts sleeping with him. The man who was out working all these hours so he could show his wife he loved her, comes in and catches her in the bed with this other man. He gets mad. He has hate in his heart. And then he murders the man that he don't know and the wife. Why did he murder her? It doesn't make sense. He was working 90 hours a week to show her that he loved her. And it wound up with all three of them dead. There was just some man, I mean, they haven't released any reason yet, but in Florida, was that Friday or Thursday? A grandpa got mad at his daughter, shot his daughter, and shot her five youngins. One of them 3 months old.
And it's been discovered that he was convicted of killing his son in a supposed accident, his 8-year-old son in 2001.
He already had some kind of gun charge, previous crime.
I'm certainly not saying that murdering anybody is ever right. But if I were living in Detroit or Chicago, and I had a 15-year-old kid that was out gang banging and murdering people and raping and robbing, and I called him in the act of doing it, or called any other 14 or 15-year-old in the act of doing it, I would stop him. I would try to stop him with whatever scale of force required. What in the world can a 3-month-old do to somebody?
No.
Somehow in his mind, that seducing spirit convinced him he was doing that baby a favor. Or that baby deserved it. One of the two. Either, I don't know how the Hasatan convinced him, but either way, that all stemmed from hate. He hated something so much. Now that sin, them spirits manifest at different strengths in different people. Don't become comfortable with sin. If you don't become comfortable with sin, then it won't be as easy to be deceived and slide into something. So I think if we raised hands in here, we'd almost be 50% if I said how many people smoke. That's a sin. You're comfortable with that. That's part of what you accept. So, if it's okay to smoke 3 cigarettes a day, 2 packs of cigarettes a day, 5 packs of cigarettes a day, if it's okay to do that, what's wrong with smoking a little pot? What's wrong with smoking a little pot?
It's illegal.
It's illegal, that's one thing. But it's not that big of a deal, right? You can kind of empathize because you're like, man, I know when I don't have a cigarette, I sure would like some pot. That guy wants pot, I want a cigarette, I can understand. So if you didn't have that point of reference, you wouldn't have that. So if we accepted any sin, I just use that with that example because over 50% of the people understand it. If we accept the sin, that's a doorway. We give an avenue for the devil to whisper in our ear about something. If we had people here that ate pork, we went to a community recently that they ate clean, some of them, and some of them didn't. And so they set the meals out. They fixed all the meals together. And they didn't bother to tell us when we showed up that they were semi-kosher, quasi-Hebrew, whatever word you want to use there is. And so, thank goodness, Peyton, I think, helped prepare the food. And she came over and she was like, "Don't eat the hot dogs." And I was like, don't be silly. We're in a Hebrew community. Obviously, we need hot dogs. No, they're pork. Oh, okay. All right. Well. Now, you see how that could cause a doorway. Now we got people fixing hot dog. If I'm going to cook a pork chop in the same frying pan at the same time I'm cooking my kosher hamburger,
What's the point?
what's the point?
None.
And aren't we not supposed to use dishes that have cooking dishes?
And certainly I would tell you, I wouldn't tell you because there ain't gonna be no pork here, but seems like there'll be something you won't know. So the fact that they hid it means they had shame from it, so that means they were there. It is. There's communities and schools of thought, and I hope I don't step on the landmine here. Everything that's lawful is not wise. So there's things that are not forbidden by Torah that we do not allow here. Slavery is not forbidden in Torah. We don't own no slaves here. If slavery was legal, we probably buy every slave we could afford. Because what most people don't realize is that slaves actually had it pretty good if they had a Hebrew master, because they weren't slaves for life. Matter of fact, every 7 years they had to be set free. And in fact, the disciples said, "Hey, this guy's a slave. He belonged to you, but consider him like me. He's your brother just like I am. So if you love me and you love Yeshua, set him free right now. He didn't even say wait 7 years. Just set him free right now. And so, little avenues of sin can get in our ear and really get us. James 4:7 tells us how to defeat all those unclean spirits of all strengths and that spirit of Antichrist. And who would like to read that one?
Submit yourselves therefore to God, resist the devil, and he will flee from you. James 4:7.
Does this say defeat him?
Resist.
Resist him. So that means when he comes up and he drops something on your lap and he tempts you,
No, thank you.
you ain't got to resist him forever. I still resist him on a regular basis, Isaac. Because like I said, I like to get loud. And so when people don't hear, somebody was playing, who was playing music yesterday in the van? That was Dan. So I think I asked 2 or 3 times, who keeps playing that music? Who keeps playing that music? So every time and then I just quit. Because I was not going to be able to say it again without saying it louder than I felt comfortable saying.
I didn't hear you.
Not that yelling is a problem. You can get loud. But for me it's a problem because it's an avenue then for the devil to come in and drop in anger and division and all these other things on me. So therefore, Tony has seen me do it. I'll be doing something, and when I'm done, when I get angry and I realize I'm out of tools in my box that are from Yah, I take all the little Satan tools that are in my flesh, and I'll come in the house. I'll move away. I just stop. Sister Kim has been with us that a lot. I'll be doing something. I'll be like, Kim, come here, please, because she's my helper. That's what she's here for. What? You need to deal with this. I'm done. If I have to deal with it anymore, I'm not going to be a good witness. I'm not doing it for that person's benefit. I'm doing it for my benefit because I don't risk my salvation because some idiot at a store can't pay attention. And so I'll try to deal with that. All we have to do is resist them for 1 second. So in my example, I have to resist him when he wants me to yell. Smokers have to resist him when I want just 1 cigarette. You ain't got to say, I'm never going to smoke another cigarette as long as I live. Because guess what? You're probably telling a lie when you say that. Because humans just don't have that kind of willpower. So what you have to do is say, I'm not going to smoke this cigarette right now. I'm not going to smoke a cigarette for the next hour. And then at 3 o'clock, wrestle the devil again. At 4 o'clock, and you ain't going to win every time. Eventually, you're wrestling, you win. But resist the devil, and he will flee from you. He will stop with that temptation. All right, last week's memory verse.
Zechariah 8:17.
Yes. Did you remember that?
No. Told said it earlier.
All right. We were told last week in our memory verse, let none of us imagine evil in our hearts against our neighbor. Don't love a lie, a false oath, because these things Yah hates. Prayers for this week. Anybody got anything they would like to lift?
My mother's going to be having a tube put down her throat to see if her ulcers will feel up.
Endoscopy, I think that's the
Oh.
I was going to call it colonoscopy, but it's the other end.
That's the other form.
Did you say anybody want to mention a prayer?
Yes, sir.
Just Sister Board and Brother Graham and Stacy and the firefighter that got killed over here in Justice.
Yes, sir.
Day before yesterday.
And Sister Nelson, her mom died. That's all.
Who?
A girl we know,
Deborah Robertson's sister, Janet.
Janet.
Janet is struggling with some health issues, yes, ma'am.
Both of my kids and my mom stepfather for it's all come to y'all.
All right.
Jobs.
Some employment. All right, let's go to prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you, Father, for allowing us all the many blessings you give us, Father, unmerited blessings, Lord, Father. We thank you for these things. We ask, Father, that you continue to pour your Spirit out to us, Father, that you continue to expand our knowledge and our understanding. We ask, Father, that you address these prayers, concerns we have lifted here, both with spiritual sicknesses, Father, that need your hand and your holy angels to minister to those folks, Father, as well as the physical needs and concerns, Father. We ask that you continue to call us out, Father, correct us, rebuke us, sharpen us, Father, so we can be perfected daily towards your works. I ask that you bring those, Father, closer to us in your will for us to interact with, Father, to be a witness, and for them to be a witness to us. We ask, Father, that you keep those away that are not in that plan. We ask travel mercies for us as we go to Brother Bullock's service Monday. Ask for travel mercies for those other folks that are traveling, Father, as well. Be with Sister Bullock, comfort her, Father. And we thank you for all these things in Yeshua HaMashiach's name, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Now, next week's Bible verse, because my slides is out of order, is Deuteronomy 15 and 12. And it covers slavery. Had a couple questions on that this week online. A couple people called about if Yah is righteous, why does he allow, quote unquote, allow slavery? And basically, the correct answer to that is Hebrews don't own slaves. A Hebrew may own an indentured servant, but after 7 years, he has to be released. If he came a single man, he leaves a single man. If he came with a family, he leaves with a family. And there's some logic behind that says, oh, that's only for Hebrews. But we know that from the beginning, what does it take to require? What is the requirement to be considered Hebrew?
To be obedient
Be
to
righteous.
Yah's word.
That's it. To obey. That's it. Native or alien, stranger born, it does not matter. All equal as soon as they accept.
Doesn't it say that there was a great mixed multitude that came out of Mitzrayim with the Israelites?
Indeed it was.
And that there was a second covenant made